Mom, I told your dad.
Are you out of your mind or what?
But I can't live there. I can't. I can't take it anymore. You understand? I'm not going to live in this bedroom the rest of my life. I'm not happy there. So you know what? I'm leaving. After all the drama that happened yesterday, you can feel the tension in the house. And now Sadhna's sick. And it's probably related to her emotions, her stress level.
Jenny leaving India did not feel loud. It did not feel messy. It felt final in a way screaming never does. When someone walks away without slamming the door, you do not hear the ending. You feel it. This did not look like a break for space. This looked like a decision already processed, already lived with, already accepted. The bags were packed outside first. The emotional exit happened long before. And when silence replaces fighting, the question changes fast. Who stopped trying first? Welcome back. I am Lily, and this is Reality Drama Files. If you follow 90 Day Fiancé for the chaos, the love, and the moments nobody wants to say out loud, subscribe and stay close. Drop a comment too, because this one hits different and your read matters. Jenny leaving was not about flights or visas. In my opinion, it was about relief. Relief does not arrive overnight. Relief shows up after years of holding tension in your chest and calling it commitment. For a long time, Jenny fought. She explained. She waited. She stayed. When all of that effort disappears, something serious already shifted. This did not feel like a couple taking a pause. This felt like a person who stopped bracing for impact. The silence between Jenny and Sumit carried more weight than any argument they ever had. No yelling, no begging, no dramatic goodbye. That calm scared viewers because calm shows clarity. If this was only distance, the urgency would still exist. The urgency vanished. And here is the part nobody wants to face yet. The moment Jenny stepped away from the environment where she carried all the risk, the balance tilted. Quiet moves change power faster than loud ones. What happens next depends on who needs the relationship more. Once fear exits the room, to understand why this calm feels heavy, you have to rewind to who Jenny used to be inside this relationship. She was not quiet. She was persistent. She was the one who crossed continents, gave up familiarity, and kept saying yes even when comfort stayed out of reach. Her days ran on endurance. Her plans ran on patience. Survival mode became routine, and routine started wearing the mask of love. For years, Jenny learned how to wait without complaining. Wait for family approval. Wait for stability. Wait for a life that always seemed one step away. When waiting lasts long enough, expectations change shape. You stop asking for ease. You start negotiating for less pain. You tell yourself progress exists because you survived another year. Survival feels productive when you feel stuck, but surviving something does not prove it was healthy. It only proves you stayed. And staying takes strength, but strength without relief turns heavy over time. The calm viewers see now does not look like giving up. It looks like someone who finally stopped holding their breath. Long-term waiting rewires hope. At first, hope feels active. Later, hope feels like pressure. Every delay costs something. Energy, joy, confidence. Over time, the question shifts from when will this work to how much longer do I have to hold on? That shift does not arrive with anger. It arrives with exhaustion. Exhaustion removes drama. Exhaustion replaces urgency with stillness. Jenny's calm is not indifference. In my opinion, it is recognition. If survival was the glue, what happens once survival ends? That question sits underneath every quiet moment. Because survival kept them together through chaos, but survival also hid the cost. And once the cost becomes clear, staying starts to feel heavier than leaving. When Jenny put physical space between herself and the pressure, something subtle happened. Not anger, not rebellion. Clarity. Distance did what years of conversations never managed to do. It slowed the noise enough for thoughts to finish themselves. Survival keeps the mind busy. You react. You adjust. You cope. Reflection waits until survival steps aside. Once the daily tension lifts, even briefly, the body relaxes first. Then the mind follows. Questions rise without shouting. Answers arrive without panic. Jenny did not look restless. She looked settled. That difference matters. Reflection does not hunt for villains. Reflection reviews patterns. How long did I wait? What did I give up? How often did relief arrive late or not at all? Those questions do not need arguments to grow. They grow in quiet. They grow in routine moments. Morning coffee without tension, sleep without negotiation, familiar comfort without stress. This stage confuses viewers because it lacks drama. No ultimatums, no breakdowns, no sudden declarations. Instead, expectations soften. Disappointment loses its edge. You stop asking the other person to change. You start adjusting yourself. Not out of spite, out of peace. Acceptance forms slowly. It shows up as lowered urgency. Fewer emotional spikes, less need to fix the future today. Acceptance does not announce itself. It settles in the background, and once it settles, it reshapes decisions. Jenny's calm does not signal coldness. In my opinion, it signals processing already done. People often mistake this phase for strength or maturity. It feels gentle on the outside. Inside, it marks preparation. Preparation for a life that feels lighter. Once the question shifts from how do I keep this to does this still work for me, time stops waiting. That question changes everything. Because once someone asks it honestly, the clock starts moving, even if nobody hears a tick yet. Now the focus shifts, not to blame, but to Sumit's side of the silence. Not as a villain, as someone worn down by years of divided loyalty and unresolved pressure. Long-term conflict does not always produce explosions. Sometimes it produces avoidance. And avoidance, over time, becomes a language of its own. Sumit has lived between roles for years. Partner, son, mediator, protector of peace. When every choice risks disappointing someone, inaction starts to feel safer than decision. Silence becomes a pause button. Not to end things, but to delay consequences. And delay can feel merciful in the moment. But silence is still behavior. It is not neutral. It communicates boundaries without naming them. When arguments stop, it can look like maturity. But when conversations stop, something else is happening. Energy has been withdrawn. Not dramatically, gradually. That withdrawal shifts the emotional balance more than any fight ever could. Arguments say, I still care enough to push. Silence says, I am tired of pushing. Over time, that difference lands heavily on the other person. One side waits for reassurance. The other side waits for pressure to fade. Both are waiting, but only one is paying the cost. Inaction often disguises itself as patience, but patience without movement sends a message, this is as far as I am willing to go. Not because I do not feel, but because feeling has become exhausting. The discomfort here is that silence protects the person who avoids choice. It preserves peace in the short term. It reduces immediate conflict. But it slowly drains the relationship of momentum, clarity, and hope. Nothing explodes. Nothing resolves. Things simply stall. And when one person begins quietly evaluating their life while the other quietly avoids deciding, the relationship enters its most dangerous phase. Because silence may protect one heart for now, but it costs the relationship every single day it continues. For most of this relationship, the balance of loss leaned in one direction. Jenny had more to lose. She had uprooted her life, invested years of waiting, and tied her future to an outcome she could not fully control. When one person has more invested, compromise often flows one way. Patience stretches longer. Boundaries bend easier. Power hides inside dependency. That imbalance shaped everything. Decisions moved slowly because delay cost one person more than the other. Hope stayed alive because letting go felt too expensive. When walking away feels impossible, endurance starts to look like choice, even when it isn't. But that dynamic only holds while dependency stays intact. The moment Jenny stopped relying on the relationship to justify her sacrifices, the leverage shifted quietly. Not through threats, not through ultimatums, through detachment. When someone realizes they can survive without the outcome they were waiting for, fear loosens its grip. This is where power actually changes. Not when someone leaves, but when they realize they could. Choice replaces urgency. Fear no longer drives every conversation. The relationship stops being a lifeline and starts being an option. That shift is unsettling for the person who benefited from the old balance. Suddenly, silence no longer pauses consequences. Delay no longer guarantees stability. The unspoken agreement that one person will always wait quietly expires. What makes this moment dangerous is how invisible it is. No announcement, no confrontation, just a subtle reordering inside one person's mind. The future is no longer something to endure. It becomes something to evaluate. And once evaluation enters the picture, the relationship is no longer protected by history alone. Because even without a final decision, everything changes the moment staying becomes a choice instead of a necessity. For years, their connection thrived on adrenaline. Every argument, every negotiation, every cultural clash became fuel for intimacy. Surviving together created a rhythm where struggle itself felt like closeness. Crisis became the glue that held them, a shared tension that masked deeper cracks. Us versus the world wasn't just a phrase, it was the environment that sustained the bond. When every day carried external pressure, the relationship didn't need conversation or compromise. Survival did it for them. Endurance disguised dissatisfaction. Conflict disguised exhaustion. The harder life pushed, the tighter the invisible threads held. But what happens when emergencies fade? When the crises that structured daily life disappear, the rhythm collapses. Silence moves in. The energy that once disguised distance now exposes it. Without constant tension, the relationship faces its true test, the ordinary. Quiet days reveal how little effort remains once survival is no longer required. This is the hidden trap many couples never see. For years, their bond relied less on affection and more on momentum. The disappearance of danger doesn't feel like freedom at first, it feels like emptiness. A calm that confuses comfort with satisfaction. And here's the twist few notice. Sometimes, the crisis was the connection. Without it, they realized they never learned to connect on ordinary terms. Love alone doesn't hold weight when the adrenaline evaporates. History, loyalty, and promises can't replace the energy once mislabeled as intimacy. The very thing they thought kept them together quietly masked what was missing. Survival had done its job, but now that job is complete. And suddenly, they're left to ask, if the struggle ends, what remains to keep us together? Jenny and Sumit aren't in a war anymore, but that doesn't mean things are fine. The loud arguments, the dramatic confrontations, they're gone. In their place is something far more dangerous, emotional burnout. It doesn't roar. It creeps in quietly. Tired eyes, half-hearted attempts, faded enthusiasm. The effort that once patched cracks now barely exists. Jenny's calm isn't relief, it's exhaustion. Sumit's silence isn't peace, it's avoidance. Every interaction is measured, minimal. The energy to fight, to negotiate, to connect has been drained over years of compromise and survival. What looks like normalcy is really depletion disguised as stability. Contrast this with what the audience remembers: screaming matches, visible tension, tears, chaos. Those moments at least demanded engagement, required both partners to show up. Emotional withdrawal, however, is invisible. It passes under the radar. And that invisibility is what makes it deadly. Relationships end quietly long before anyone announces it. Here, viewers start to see the truth. Calm doesn't equal peace. Reduced effort isn't a truce, it's a warning. The very stillness that might seem like a resolution is actually a symptom of a deeper fracture. People stay physically present while mentally checking out. Every missed word, every soft okay carries weight, signaling decisions unspoken and conclusions already forming. Jenny and Sumit's marriage isn't failing in an explosive moment. It's failing in these countless small moments where effort lags and withdrawal replaces engagement. The quiet here is louder than any fight. And just as the audience begins to grasp this, they realize the calm isn't a gift. It's the alarm bell no one hears until it's too late. And that's when the real danger hits. Because silence is louder than any argument could ever be on camera, everything looks put together. Smiles, staged conversations, moments that feel real but are carefully measured. Reality TV thrives on this illusion. The story matters more than the people living it. Jenny and Sumit have been performing for months, even years. Staying together for the show, for the narrative, for the applause, has masked what was really happening between them. But cameras can't sustain emotional energy that's already gone. When the performance fades, cracks appear. Subtle looks, small silences, gestures that once meant reassurance now signal detachment. The pressure to maintain appearances only delays the inevitable. Audiences watching on the outside may think there's hope, but what's happening inside the house is far more revealing. Jenny is starting to see clearly. The clarity isn't dramatic, it's quiet, but sharp. She knows where she stands, what she can tolerate, and what no longer fits in her life. Sumit, on the other hand, hesitates. He doesn't lash out. He doesn't demand. He just waits. He avoids confrontation, avoids decision, avoids clarity. One is moving forward emotionally, the other is frozen in place. This asymmetry is the real story. When one person reaches emotional clarity while the other hesitates, the gap grows. Reconnection becomes unlikely, not because of conflict or betrayal, but because the distance in understanding has become permanent. This is the point where survival instincts, fear, attachment, and choice collide. The dynamic has shifted irreversibly. The cameras will capture smiles and scripted moments, but they cannot film the silent divergence between two people who once tried so hard to stay together. Jenny and Sumit are no longer synchronized in emotion, and that split is fatal. When clarity meets hesitation, reconciliation doesn't stand a chance. Jenny is no longer the same person who bent herself around everyone else's expectations. The Jenny who sacrificed constantly, who waited, who endured isolation and pressure, is slowly being replaced by someone who values her own emotional survival. This isn't a sudden rebellion. It's a steady, almost imperceptible transformation. Every quiet moment alone adds a layer of self-awareness she never had before. She grieves, not for Sumit personally, but for the version of love she imagined when she said yes years ago. The dreams of mutual effort, shared priorities, and emotional reciprocity now feel like distant memories. That grief isn't loud, it's heavy, and it presses on her even as she moves through daily routines. She can feel the weight of what never arrived, and the exhaustion of what she tried to sustain alone. Returning to the old dynamic is no longer possible. The clarity she's gained acts like a filter. What used to feel acceptable now feels draining. She doesn't need to declare a breakup, she just knows that pretending to resume survival mode would cost more than it's worth. Peace has a price, and for Jenny, the cost of stepping back into dependency feels unbearable. Sumit remains where he has always been, conflicted, hesitant, partly paralyzed by indecision. But Jenny's identity is evolving faster than any hesitation can slow. The emotional balance has shifted irreversibly. The old leverage, where fear and obligation held the relationship together, no longer exists. Her choices are guided by self-preservation, not nostalgia or obligation. The stark reality looms: if reconciliation is ever possible, it would require real, tangible change, more than promises, more than words. Jenny's transformation has raised the stakes so high that anything less is invisible to her. The old love cannot return without action. Not just apology. The end isn't loud. There's no dramatic confrontation, no tearful exit on camera, no public declaration. The line between staying and leaving was crossed long before anyone noticed. Jenny didn't leave in anger or rebellion. She left in clarity, in calm recognition that love alone cannot carry imbalance forever. The energy that once held them together quietly dissolved, unnoticed by cameras, unnoticed by casual observers, but impossible to ignore for those living it. Sumit's hesitation lingers in the background, a quiet echo of the years spent divided between loyalty, pressure, and avoidance. His love may still exist, but love cannot replace emotional exhaustion. It cannot undo missed opportunities, unspoken needs, or a lifetime of survival mode compromises. Jenny has learned that peace, even if it means distance, is more valuable than clinging to a relationship built on depletion. The shift is subtle, but absolute. The balance of power, the expectations, the emotional glue, all of it has changed. No words can reset what time and clarity have altered. And while the world might see a couple who stayed, reality is far more complex. One partner moving toward clarity while the other hesitates is a silent recipe for permanent divergence. The final moment isn't a breakup. It's a pause pregnant with consequence. It's a reflection on what happens when survival instincts outweigh attachment, when emotional preservation outweighs hope for repair. And it leaves one lingering question, impossible to ignore. What happens when the partner who has waited the longest finally stops waiting? Sometimes silence says more than any fight ever could.